Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Thursday already, can you believe it? Anyways, I kind of wanted to make a video to follow up on the last video that I posted. It was more directed on how I kind of started my business, things like that. Today it's not going to have anything to do with photography. I am really uncomfortable being on video, I'm going to be completely honest. So you might see me looking off to one side or the other of my screen. I've written down some notes. I kind of just took some time to write down what I wanted to talk about today. Um, so over like the last year, I'd say I've had quite a few people message me from my friends list who are currently in situations where they are experiencing domestic violence. And this isn't going to be something where I call out names specifically. I feel like this is a very private things that people share with me are in confidence, so it's not going to be anything like that. But I also am a victim of domestic violence. I was. I really hate that word, and I'll get into that in a minute. But, and I'm going to preface all of this with saying that I don't have a psychology degree, like I'm not a therapist or anything, but sometimes it kind of helps other people. I know it helped me to know that I wasn't alone in my situation. It kind of gave me a kick in the ass that I needed to really change my own life. So today I just kind of wanted to talk and reach out to people who might be experiencing that. Maybe you know someone who has been in a situation where they were dealing with domestic violence and you can't understand it because you've never been there. Maybe this will offer a little bit more insight and understanding to what your loved ones have been through. So today I wanted to address being fully present in your life and how that has taken me from surviving to actually fully living my life. So, victim, I said I hated that word. I really want you to think about how that word makes you feel for a second. I'm just going to be quiet for like 3 seconds. So think about the word victim. And how does that make you feel? So even in the midst of relationships where I was experiencing domestic violence, I never felt like a victim. I felt like victims were those women who ended up dying in those situations. Those were the true victims to me, but not me. I was still alive. I was still living. I still had the capacity to change my situation in my life. I feel like surviving. I was a survivor even before I left the situation, if that makes sense. That's just how I looked at it in that situation. So how do you go from being a victim to a survivor? Resiliency. In my mind, that's really the only word that really stands out, is resiliency. And it really is a beautiful thing. The most resilient people are probably some of my favorite people who have suffered things that maybe we don't really even know about. They just have like this strength about them because they've survived. They've been resilient through these things. And it really is beautiful. But it's not some place that we're supposed to inhabit. We're not supposed to live there. It's kind of like that hotel that you stay in for a while you're looking for a home to permanently stay in. That's kind of how I look at resiliency. So you adapt and you get ingenuitive with your surroundings and resources, and it's fun for a while that you learn new skills and attributes about yourself. But let's be honest, eventually you want to spread out, you want to have a kitchen to fucking cook in, and you don't want to use your bed for a dinner table. I mean, eventually resiliency is nice, but it kind of gets old. Like, where do you go from there? And I feel like that's another thing that's really hard for people who are leaving situations of domestic violence is there's like a lot of resources to help you leave. There's even like women's shelters, stuff like that, but there's no resources that I was really aware of to help you after you leave, because you're going to have residual feelings about that. So I had to take a cold, hard look in the mirror in about March of 2015 for myself. I had been dealing with untreated PTSD for quite some time, and that was compounded with postpartum depression. I was surviving even outside of that. Like, I just felt shitty all the time. I was depressed. I was down on myself constantly. It got to the point for me that I didn't even need someone to tell me bad things about myself for me to feel bad about myself. And I just kind of got to the point I was like, why did I survive and get through situations if I'm not going to fully live my life? Like, I was fucking miserable. So, I had been taking psychology classes and learned about EMDR therapy. And Google it if you don't know what it is. It's the best thing I could tell you because I don't want to go into some huge long explanation. But I really realized I was going to die if I didn't do something to change my life. I mean, or I was going to not live my life to the fullest, and then what? I'm just waiting to die at that point. It was depressing. It was a horrible way to live my life. So, and for me, prescription drugs, I mean, anything prescription wise, I always have adverse side effects. So I had tried depression medication for a little bit and it was just making me feel worse. So I just made the decision one day. I said, I'm done living like this. I'm going to go in and I'm going to get help. And I called a therapist's office. I didn't know at the time where I was going to end up, but I just knew that I had to start. And sometimes I feel like that's the biggest thing ever, is taking that first step. So I went through about 9 or 10 months of invasive therapy with a tough love EMDR specialist. I absolutely adore her, no shit attitude. And it changed my fucking life. That's the long and short of it. It changed my life. And I want to take this time to address that therapy isn't some type of cure-all. It's not some like symptom relief band-aid. You don't go in and a therapist hands you some like a band-aid and you put it over your issues and you know you're good. Therapy is something that you have to fully commit to. It's not fun. It's painful. You have to realize that you're responsible for a lot of things. I'm not gonna lie, the disillusion being wiped away from my eyes was a painful process, and I had to start taking a lot of responsibility for myself. Um, don't mind my 2-year-old, she's trying to nap and she hates napping, so that's why you're hearing a child cry in the background. I'm not like holding her hostage. So there was some massive shit that I had not dealt with yet. I just refused to do it, and it was rearing its ugly head in my life in a lot of different ways, whether that was maladaptive coping mechanisms or whatever, you know, just me being a fucking miserable human being. So if you're a victim of someone else's shitty behavior, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's right to take responsibility for that. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you do have responsibility at some point for the boundaries that you assert with these people once you know that they're shitty. And also how you're allowing what happened to you to impact your life, your behaviors, and the lives around you, or even your self-talk, because that was a big thing for me. I would get really down on myself. So even just the little tiny patterns every day of like when I'd start being dire and all like moody and thinking about all the bad in the world, which really sparked my anxiety to be really bad, I would have to take note of that and say, no, okay, so what's good in my life? You know, and start, you have to change these tiny little patterns before you're going to be able to change these big things or the big ways that you think. You have to, in essence, take that grapefruit spoon and dig all that nastiness out of you, recognize that it's been a part of you, and then get rid of it. So being present, that was the first thing I started talking about. Being present was probably the biggest tool that I have taken away from therapy and that I practice daily. I noticed that I get anxiety and I have to, it sounds silly, but like you close your eyes and you focus on things in your surroundings, or you look at things and you center yourself back into now. A lot of us constantly look forward. I was guilty of that too. Looking forward, or I'm just not present here. Thinking about when lives will be different. Oh, well, it'll be different. Maybe he'll change, you know. Oh, maybe if we make more money, he won't be so mad at me, or, maybe if I walk on eggshells constantly, he'll magically fucking turn from this asshole into a wonderful human being. So you're constantly living somewhere else. You're not living here. So when things will be better, when I make more money, if I was prettier, if I was thinner, if I lost 5 pounds, if I shrunk an inch, if I, run an extra mile at the gym, or, if I do this, that, and the other, it's always something outside of being present within yourself. So once I started being present in the now and recognizing what was going on in my life now and recognizing the good things, changing these negative behaviors into positive thinking, every affirmations was a big thing. That helped me really look at myself and start liking myself. It was crazy. Everything started changing once I decided to be present in my life now and stop looking outside of myself. I found it easier to assert my boundaries, make the most of today. I became more productive, more goal-oriented, less anxious, and I even started to like myself. I'm a better friend, a better mother. I'm kinder to myself. I don't have time for forced friendships or forced interactions or fake things. I feel like now I'm able to be more authentic and more vulnerable with people and really connect with them because I have that knowledge of how to be here. I'm here with you now. I'm not off in la la land thinking about all these things that give me anxiety. And I'm finding out more as time passes that happiness isn't like this big dramatic stage play exit, the perfect ending. Happiness is really simple. And it gets really hard when you're in these high stress situations all the time to really know what normal is, or like you have a different type of normal. And so everything's just like really high strung, really high stress, everything's dramatic. And it really doesn't have to be like that. I'm also realizing now that I've wasted my entire adult life up until this point. I'm now 30. I've basically wasted all of my 20s living somewhere else than here. I could be regretful and say that, I regret not coming to this conclusion sooner that I have, but instead of doing that and going that route, because that's easy and it's negative, and that's not what this is about, I'm gonna say at 30, I'm fully living my life and it's fucking beautiful. I'm so happy and I'm true to myself. I'm authentic. I feel like this bleeds over in every aspect of my life. And I just really want you, regardless of what you're surviving or having to use resiliency for, I really respect you for that. I respect you for pulling out the things that you need and being ingenuitive and surviving in what you're surviving in, but that's not where you're supposed to live. And I hope that if you take anything from this, it's that you have the capacity and the power to change your own life. So, thanks for watching. I love you all. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you later.